I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And there is a case, a trial that is happening right now. And yes, it is the talk of social media, and it's the talk of conspiracy theorists. I'm talking about the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. And, I read a lot of these posts, and then the conspiracies went so far as to say, and kind of point the finger at us at Court TV, why are we not seeing this trial on Court TV? What are you hiding from us? And then kind of put Court TV and me and everybody else here in the middle of this conspiracy. Well, calm down, folks. Calm down. First of all, it's in federal court. Cameras are not permitted in any federal district court. So you don't see federal trials here on Court TV. That is why you don't see them. And that rule has been in effect way before the trial of Jeffrey Epstein's confidant, Ghislaine Maxwell. So it's not part of any conspiracy that's out there. Now, I'm not saying there are no conspiracies out there, but I'm just letting you know that Court TV, me and everyone else here, not part of it in this case. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about what's happening inside that courtroom in the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, who, after the death of Jeffrey Epstein, really became the only case that could perhaps uncover or show to the world what exactly Jeffrey Epstein was up to and how far and deep this whole thing went. Well, Ghislaine Maxwell is on trial for sex trafficking. It's in federal court. No cameras, but we do have an idea of what is happening there. And today, on the witness stand, the continued testimony of one of the accusers. She was 14 at the time. Here's a wrap-up of what happened today. Today marked day 3 of the federal sex trafficking trial of British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell and the second day of testimony from one of the key accusers in the case. The woman, identified only as Jane, detailed the sexual encounters she experienced with both financier Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, starting when she was just 14 years old. Jane claims she first met Ghislaine Maxwell in 1994 and was later invited to Jeffrey Epstein's home where the cycle of abuse began. When recounting the first sexual interaction she had with Epstein, Jane said she was, quote, frozen in fear. On another occasion, Jane said she was taken to a massage room where Maxwell and Epstein took advantage of her. There were hands everywhere, and Jeffrey proceeded to masturbate again. Jane described encounters with sex toys and oral sex orgies in graphic detail. She described Maxwell as very casual, like it was no big deal. Under cross-examination, Maxwell's defense attorney confronted the witness with documents that stated she told officials her memory was foggy on whether Maxwell was actually there when she was being molested by Epstein, and that she made statements that no abuse occurred at Epstein's New Mexico ranch. Jane denied that she changed her story and challenged the accuracy of the documents, once stating this was just someone jotting down notes. A lot of these are not correct. A lot to get to tonight as this trial continues. And these trials, again, more challenging to cover because they don't permit cameras in federal court. You don't get the gavel-to-gavel coverage that we give you here on Court TV. You don't get to see and hear all the evidence like we show it to you in the other trials that we cover. But we're going to do the best we can, folks, tonight. We're not hiding anything. We're not part of any conspiracy. Let's bring in our special guest and talk about the case. Joining us from New York City, People magazine journalist Elaine Aradilis is with us. Elaine, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Let's start here, because your thoughts about all the chatter online and all the people so interested in what's happening in this trial and believing that this trial itself is an ongoing part of the conspiracy, from everything from who the prosecutor is to not seeing the case and limitations out there. What are your thoughts about what's happening inside the courtroom?
The thing that you have to remember is, and I think we get, caught up in all of the names that are familiar. There's a lot of power and money. And at the core of this case, you have a couple of Jane Does who are basically being re-traumatized and having to go through their experiences and be grilled by both sides. And, that is going to bring about very emotional testimony. And like you said, there's no electronics inside. So even reporters, if you're inside, you don't have your phone with you. You have to check that in. So during breaks, or if you're watching the trial outside, then you can get some information. So even the lack of immediate information, I think, causes people to get wound up and, they're not patient and waiting for the facts to come out.
Yeah, the bottom line is it's the same way we had to cover Martha Stewart's trial and other federal trials that we've covered through the years. I mean, it's just a different set of rules. I don't agree with those rules. I think the Chief Justice should change all of that, but he doesn't. Doesn't even let cameras in front of the Supreme Court. So let's talk about the accusers and what's at the heart here of what this trial is about. Ghislaine Maxwell is a confidant. That's the only word I could think of to describe her in her relationship, this strange relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But they were definitely connected. According to the accusers, how involved is she in the actual sex acts?
Some have told me that she was involved. You have to understand, I've interviewed several, they don't like to call themselves victims, they call themselves survivors. And I've spoken with several survivors that dealt with Epstein and Maxwell in the mid-2000s. And some of them told me that Maxwell participated in group sex. And then there were some that I just interviewed for this week's issue of People. She told me that she felt that Maxwell was the mastermind. She was really worse than Jeffrey. And one of the tactics that she used, she starved her. There was a real cruelty, emotional abuse happening that she alleges came from Ghislaine Maxwell.
This is some sick stuff, and thank goodness there's a trial. Thank goodness there's a trial. When you have allegations like that, there should be a trial. You've got evidence, you've got survivors, you've got accusers. Let the jury hear the evidence and make a decision. Let me ask you this, though, because at the heart of the conspiracy theorists involved in this case, and there may be some truth to some of the things that people believe may have happened here. The big names, the powerful people, do you expect more names to come out during the course of this trial? Yes, no, and if the answer is no, is it because people are hiding those names, or it's just not part of the evidence? It's just not part of the case?
I think it's too soon to tell. I think Ghislaine knows names because the women that I've interviewed, they've mentioned other names to me, but they've not put that out publicly. And Ghislaine has names. There were names that went to that island that we don't talk about a lot, but today Prince Andrew was brought up and Donald Trump was brought up. There were no allegations made against them, so let's be clear on that. But she testified that she saw Prince Andrew and Donald Trump.
Where?
Donald Trump she saw at Mar-a-Lago. And that is, Virginia Giuffre, she was working at Mar-a-Lago when she met Jeffrey Epstein. And that's because her father worked at I think he was at the tennis courts. He was like a maintenance man. And so she wanted to become a professional masseuse. And so she got a job at Mar-a-Lago. So it's not unusual, but you hear these names and they pop up. And so, I think time will tell if they become bigger at the trial.
Absolutely. Well, Elaine, I appreciate your time tonight. I hope you'll continue to join us and give us more insight into everything that's happening there. We do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Elaine Aradelis from People Magazine. Read her stuff on this case. Let's bring in our think tank, get some reaction tonight. Joining us in New York, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona. In Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. And in Minneapolis, Minnesota, criminal defense attorney Mike Brandt is with us tonight. All right, I got to start with Bernarda, guys, because she was in the courtroom. She's in New York. She's watching what's happening there. Bernarda, from your perspective, what are you seeing in that courtroom? And let me ask you this. Is information being suppressed from the public? Are they not getting information that they would get in other federal trials? Is there some sort of conspiracy, whether it's to kick people out of the courtroom, to keep information going out? What's going on?
Vinny, there was so much fireworks going on in the courtroom, and not just today, but especially on Monday doing opening statements. Look, in this federal courthouse, they're not keeping people out. For example, on the R. Kelly trial, there were only 2 courtrooms that were open aside from the room where the trial was taking place, the overflow room. In this trial with Ghislaine Maxwell, on Monday, there were 6 overflow rooms in addition to the courtroom where the trial is taking place. Today, there were 4 overflow rooms for the public to come in if they wanted to come in. So the courthouse is definitely open for anyone who wants to come in and watch the trial. There's nothing that's being suppressed from the public. The only caveat is that you can't record anything. You can't record audio or visual or take pictures. That's definitely prohibited in federal courthouse. And that's always been the case in federal trials here and throughout the country. In terms of what is going on in the courtroom, Jane was able, she's been testifying since yesterday, and today she was on cross-examination the entire morning, plus the good part of the afternoon. Jane held her own. She was adamant about what Jeffrey Epstein did to her at the age of 14 years old. And she even brought it to perspective that she was 14 years old, 5'2" and 90 pounds when she met Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at the summer camp back in 1994. And that it was Maxwell that tried to normalize this activity, try to make her comfortable with this sexual activity that was going on, but that she was definitely present for these acts that were taking place. The cross-examination, though, spent hours, the defense, and trying to tear her up with prior inconsistent statements. The only problem with that is that those statements weren't written by her, and they weren't reviewed by her. Also, during cross-examination, the defense tried to get into that she received a $5 million settlement. And that settlement was enhanced because she was cooperating with the prosecution. At one point, Jane actually broke down and started crying that she's ashamed about what happened to her. She wants closure. She wants to be able to move on with her life. She wants to put this past her, that she's been living with this dark secret for so many years. That's what she wants at the end with this trial. In terms of name dropping, she did mention Donald Trump, that there was a point when Jeffrey Epstein took her at the age of 14 years old to Mar-a-Lago to Donald Trump's home. Nothing else was said about that. She also mentioned Prince Andrew. But in regards to him, she just said that she was on an airplane with him. Not much else was mentioned from that. But there's nothing that's being hidden. You can go into the courthouse, you can watch the trial, you can listen to what's going on. It's a lot of hours, but it's definitely some juicy info. Definitely juicy and definitely entertaining.
All right, Nima Rahmani, you want to put some perspective on what's happening inside your former federal prosecutor? What's going on inside that federal courthouse? Is there anything unusual going on? Is this different than the way we do other federal trials? Because the conspiracy folks were after us here at Court TV.
Vinny, it's a conspiracy. The courtroom sketch artist union is in cahoots with the feds. No, of course not. This is Federal Rule of Civil Procedure, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 53 that prohibits any type of cameras in any federal courtroom in the country. Judge Nathan has no discretion whatsoever, but congratulations to her. She was actually just nominated to be elevated to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. But what Bernarda said is absolutely right. The judge has allowed for plenty of overflow rooms, which typically they don't do, but in this case they have. So members of the public can go in there, they can watch the proceedings, but again, because of those federal rules, no one can video, take pictures in any federal trial in this country. And turning to the actual testimony, again, I agree with Bernarda. It's what we expected to see in this case. Defense attorneys are going to do what they always do when it comes to victims of sex abuse. They're going to attack them on multiple grounds, right? The first was, obviously, at some point, this is the psychology of abuse. They have a relationship with their abuser, and she was cross-examined on the "You Rock My World" note that she wrote to Epstein. Then there's always the lack of a contemporaneous report. Jane's report was after Epstein died. There's cooperation with the feds. That's something defense attorneys always go after. And of course, those civil settlements. Defense attorneys love that. They think this is all about money and a money grab. But I think she did an outstanding job today. She's, of course, going to be one of 4 victims who testify, 3 of which form the basis for the charges. And I fully expect Maxwell to be convicted. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that conviction live here on Court TV, but I'm sure we'll be covering it.
All right, Mike Brandt, I want to ask you, if Ghislaine Maxwell was your client, and let's say that she has all these names, right? From the beginning, saying the names, the big people. We're going to take down, these politicians, these senators, whoever it is, princes, whatever. Is that a bargaining chip that you would approach prosecutors with and say, listen, I got all these names, I can give them to you, but you got to let her out? I mean, is that something that's real?
Absolutely, that's something that's real. And quite frankly, I was a little surprised when she was first indicted and first arrested that she wasn't cooperating, because I think, like so many other people have said, people think that she's got names. She knows who was in these sex parties, who was involved in all of the shenanigans that were going on with these underage girls. And that's absolutely a bargaining chip, because she could use that to whittle down her sentence, to make a deal with the prosecutors, to turn over these names. And as we know, to go after some of these higher named people is a big deal. And she could have given him the inside scoop on that. So I was somewhat surprised that we didn't see any of that. Either she doesn't know it, which I'd be surprised of, they weren't interested in her cooperating, or she just stiff-armed them and said, I'm taking my chances at trial, which it looks like that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm as surprised as you are. Okay, folks, stay with us. And before we go, listen, take us out of your conspiracy theories now, will you please? We're covering the story. There's no media blackout. It's a big trial. Court TV, closing arguments, is letting you know what's happening. Bernardo was inside. So, okay, just take it back a notch, folks. All right, when we come back, we're going to